You're listening to Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall on CJAD 800.
Right now, we welcome to Montreal Now James Mennie of the Montreal Gazette. And first of all, James, it's great to talk to you.
I have to tell you, it's great to talk to you, Trudy. Trudy and Sarah and Trudy, this show is turning into the corner of Peel and St. Catherine Street. I feel if I stay here long enough, I'm going to meet everyone I ever knew.
Oh, that's funny.
You know a lot of people, James, so that's going to take a while, but we'll take that.
Well, you never know. I've been on this show for a while. It was kind of crazy, but and I never take a day off here. And even when I'm on vacation from the Gazette, I never take a day off. But you know what? Because I just heard you talking about being very, very diligent and talking about the weather. Is it just me? Or is Environment Canada issuing warnings like they're handing out Pez dispensers here? Because we were supposed to have a heavy rainfall, right? That never happened. It happened up in Quebec City. It didn't happen here.
You're right. And didn't we have in Ottawa, they had tornado watches or warnings that completely fouled up their Canada Day, back on Canada Day weekend. They didn't materialize. Well, you know what?
I'll just say, because I watched the weather for the morning show, but I am not by any means, this is okay to be honest, I don't have weather training specifically. I just spend a lot of time paying attention to what they're saying. And I have to agree, I feel like there are a lot of warnings and updates and watches, and it's hard to parse all of that. And I get buzzed on my phone all the time. And I've set alerts for different places in the country as well, so my phone's always going off. But at the same time, even if something doesn't pan out, if something were to happen and there was no warning, they would also get bitten for that.
No, I understand, and better safe than sorry. But my concern, and I'll leave it at that, is that because obviously at the Gazette we do the same thing. They put out a warning, we post it immediately. But it's almost like for thunderstorms, every time the sky gets dark, they put out a warning. No, excuse me, my bad. They put out a watch.
A watch,
right?
Yeah.
Every single time, and then it's like, okay, it's like, but and plus I have no formal training in meteorology either, Sarah. Although I have spent much of my life looking out the window, and that believing has come in really handy.
Oh, let's get to politics. Let's talk about, who else? The Quebec Liberal Party, the party that seems to be in quest of an identity, in quest of a raison d'etre within the political spectrum here in Quebec. What, James, is your take on the rebuild strategy that you've seen so far?
Well, no, I mean, what happened was, right, they announced with some pomp that they were going to do this cross Quebec tour. They're going to reconnect with voters. More importantly, perhaps reconnect with members. And last week, my buddy Phil Otier of the Gazette sat down with Andre Pratt, who's I guess is sort of like heading up this roadshow, and Madwanika Cadet, who's the basically in charge of collating all of these various points of view. And I read the interview that they gave him, and I was expecting, okay, I'll find out a little more now because it's been a few weeks since they made this announcement. But it's like, okay, our membership is telling us we have to stay the same, but on the other hand, we know we have to change, which kind of leaves me wondering, what the heck's going on here? Because, and I think the really essential word that you use, Trudy, is raison d'etre. It's like, honest to God, what are you guys doing here? What do you do for a living? I can tell you, that the old one sentence, I can sum up in one sentence what every other party in Quebec stands for, whether I like it or not. But the Liberals, on the one hand, they're saying, well, we should be more nationalist. But no, there's no contradiction between being nationalist and federalist, according to Ms. Cadet. However, in Quebec, we have ample proof that there is, because nationalist in Quebec means in some cases not just a few steps away from being out and out separatist, but as long as I get what I want, I won't split out of the country. So I was looking at this, and I've been watching what's been said, and I'm wondering, how are you guys going to offer yourselves up as an alternative when in fact you're still at? And I know it was a traumatic defeat last year, but the fact is, I would be moving a lot more quickly than you guys are right now if I had to reinvent myself. They're going to have a policy convention, I believe, this fall, well, they'll try and figure out what they want to be when they grow up. But never mind, for me, the bottom line here is you need a leader, and you needed that leader yesterday.
Something else,
unless they move towards that, I think they're in actual danger of sort of essentially, how can I put it, making themselves so superfluous that it won't matter what they do. And in fact, I not so jokingly suggested on the show a couple of months back is that it take a leaf from what used to be the BC Liberal Party's book and change their name.
That might happen indeed. Something else that seems to be taking forever. James, do we have a public inquiry yet on foreign interference in Canadian politics?
Well, let me take the guesswork out of that for you, Sarah. We don't have one, nor will we ever have one. I was talking about this on Friday at this time, and at the moment there were, contradictions coming out of Ottawa. They were having a late meeting, and because as you guys well know, when you're going to announce very important news, you wait till after 5 o'clock on Friday. But that to one side. It was like contradictions. Trudeau was saying, no, the Conservatives are being very obstructionist. They're not on side. They're not on board. The Conservatives turn around basically, no, Trudeau's lying. That's not true. We want to have this inquiry. We're close to an agreement. Anyway, and thank God I ended work at 6 because this went on until about 8 or 9 o'clock on Friday night. And it turns out now that, the Tories are saying, yeah, we have an agreement. And the Liberals are saying, no, we never had one, and we're still talking about it. All this is going on, I'm sure, to make this issue of foreign interference, more specifically Chinese government interference in Canadian politics, as boring as possible. This meteorite is cooling with every passing day. People aren't talking about it. You're not seeing headlines about it. And I think essentially it's a smarter move on the part of Trudeau when he said, okay, you know what, you guys, let the opposition agree on what you're going to do. Although they would have the final word as government on the nature of the inquiry, they're just going to, how can I put it, discuss this into oblivion. And I guarantee you come this fall, we will not be we'll be talking about a lot of things, but I think foreign interference, at least a public inquiry into foreign interference, will not be on the agenda.
Let's stay at the federal level, James, to talk about Ottawa taking on the online giants, and that new poll showing that there is some public support for that, but it comes with a caveat. And not only public support, there is some corporate support for that too. We've started to see building. What's your take?
Well, honestly, I think it's a very Angus Reid put a poll out, and I think it's very honest. Is that the majority of respondents believe that media should be protected and big tech should pay their fair share. However, and this is where things go south, they're saying, yeah, but I think they should not, they should back off on this C18 stuff because the bottom line here is if it affects my access to Canadian content on Google and Facebook, I don't think that's a good idea. So essentially, I think the passion doesn't extend past the keyboard, which isn't to say that in this day and age, that is not a factor. But all that said, it looks as if, okay, you teach that Zuckerberg a lesson, but just don't do it with my Google access because then I'm going to be very, very angry. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting. And, of course, in the middle of all this is mainstream media, which has been beaten like a drum for the past 15, 20 years with the advent of the Internet and the almost total flow of advertising to online platforms. So yes, on the one hand, there is a crisis. I'm not entirely sure. I think when people say, we really support the idea of paying newsrooms for their content, I think they say that, and I don't mean this in a bad way. I think they say this because it's one of those I'm in favor of virtue things. Of course, you should be paying them. But honestly, I think bottom line is they don't care one way or another. And I think the fat cats at Facebook and Google know this. So we'll see how it's going to unfold. I think the only thing that's standing in the way of this being rescinded is Justin Trudeau's ego. And maybe in this particular instance, it isn't misplaced, but I would not rely, how can I put it, on a tsunami of public support turning things around in the dynamic between news producers and online platforms. I don't see that happening at all.
It's really a standoff with the Canadians stuck in the middle of it. James, thank you so much for today. We'll talk with you again tomorrow after 5 o'clock.
Absolutely. I demand.